uppercut, uppercut, sonic boom! Well, hello there, humans, hippies, earthlings, whoever you are, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and if you're lucky enough indeed to be doing it too, welcome back to the channel. I'm Bush Grin. Wow, this is like, this is what it's like learning to love again. I am learning to play Six Finger Claw, and I thought that I would make a video on this so that I could highlight the pros and the cons and the pain of the process, and it has been painful. I've done a whole lot of learning, and I did a lot of it on TDMs, playing to adjust in there, but then I went out and played classics and found out that things just weren't gonna work when I was playing classics. So I'm gonna break down the changes I've made, what I'm doing, and why don't you, if you want to learn Six Finger Claw along with me, why don't you do it with me? And we'll all do it together and we'll get better at it. And at the end of the series, we can have a Six Finger Claw shoot off. Anyway, here we go. So let's have a look at some of the things that have been an issue. Firstly, this whole section of the screen over here, I've been trying to set this up so that I have a head start by using areas and buttons that I used for my four-finger claw layout, but it's been a disaster. One of the things that I found I really, really liked was having the zoom and the fire button next to each other, because it gave me this wonderful ADS ability to just jam down two fingers. But I was often missing the fire button or the zoom button, generally the zoom button, because this area on the edge of the screen here, it won't let the zoom button go across. So you only... if you miss it, then you can't even move the gun around. Like, you get jammed with a finger on the screen, finger off, and it's just terrible. So, to try to alleviate that, I went full, I don't know, I tried to outthink the machine. It didn't really work. I was crap. This big button here, the second fire button, that's half off the screen. You can do that with the left side fire button, the second fire button thing. And that meant that I was never missing the fire button on the edge of the screen. But then I was using my index finger to tap this, where I've been using my pointer finger to tap this area here all this time. So what I found was I was trying to kill people by zooming at them, which wasn't a lot of fun. And this area of the screen over here just wasn't getting utilized. I was running around and I was constantly... yeah, it wasn't good. And this is the thing that we've ended up with at the end of the day that I'm going to try and persevere with. And that is this little number here, where you can see over here, I've already circled on the left, the vertical feel is a lot more, oh, hang on, revert to original. There we go. This area over here. Okay, let me break down for you the real difference between six and four finger. In four finger, my movement button would be down here and my fingers would have that kind of a plane to move and tap buttons, which is what I've always done. That's fine. But when you use when you try and go to six finger, your thumb comes further across the screen and the angle your fingers work on is far steeper. So you actually have this whole section of screen. Oh wow, it really doesn't want me to do that, does it? This whole section of screen here is where your buttons are, and all this is empty in the middle, whereas previously all your buttons would be like in this section of the screen here, but none of them would be vertical straight down, which is what we're trying to do here with these buttons. And I've got to tell you, I can't zoom in at the moment. It is absolutely torture. I'm going to show you some clips now, and we're going to talk through this in a bit more of an interesting fashion. Now, the whole point of this is to develop six fingers, and really, it was to improve my movement. What I found was having this ADS thing that you can see on the right-hand side of the screen here, where I've got the zoom and the fire button together, was excellent for gunfighting in close quarters, but it didn't give me anything. In fact, it made me worse at aiming at range, which was bad. I love this too, the ability to peek like this in TPP, in FPP, like do little no scope. Oh, I love that. That's like my favorite thing in the world now. But what I'm doing a lot is just playing five finger claw, which is good. better than 4, but it's not 6. And the reason I want 6 is movement. Movement, movement, movement. So you can see this is the variable I went to, which it's got jump, and then the crouch is on the right-hand side, on the left, the right-hand side of the left edge of the screen. So it's basically closest to the middle. And it wasn't doing anything for me. I wasn't getting a lot of movement. Well, I've come back to the idea that it's just going to take time, and I'm going to have to build something that I feel is worth getting to, because I absolutely love this whole leaning while not actually scoping in, and then being able to tap the ADS button, the zoom button when I want to. But that's a big difference to the way I normally play TDMs. And it's also a big difference to the way you play in Classics, because in Classics, you're not doing this much CQC stuff. Most of your engagements are mid to long range. And that's what I found, was when I went and started playing Classics, I just couldn't aim. Having the ability to smash down 2 buttons on the right side of the screen and go to a perfect ADS, like a split second quicker than having a zoom on the left and a fire on the right, is great, but it just wasn't worthwhile at all. I've never had any problems zooming in before, and doing it quicker is great, but man, when you zoom in with a 3x and you try and do a full spray and you're holding down 2 fingers on the right-hand side of the screen, it affects the way your recoil control goes. It really doesn't work nearly as well for me. So, although I loved it, I had to change it. And this is the change I made. I went to this vertical left edge where the peak buttons are actually on top of each other, and I'm struggling, really struggling, but I feel like this is something that is going to be far more effective in the long run. And then on the right side of the screen, everything's in a circle around the fire button, and I've got the vertical, the above is crouch, and on the very far right edge of the screen, the top part is crouch and the bottom is prone. So they're right next to each other. And so there is like 2 peaks next to each other, and then your crouch and your prone next to each other. And then your zoom on the left, and then your fire on your left. So there's a much more even division of labor, and I can hopefully then bring all 6 fingers to bear on this kind of a layout. And you see, I'm not zooming in here hardly at all, hey. I'm literally, and it's not because I don't want to, it's because I'm actually thinking through, and then I say, hey, you've got to do some zooms, so I start trying to zoom, and then I can't aim, and it's like torture. But we're going to get better, and I thought this would be a good thing to do together. So if you want to start learning to do 6-finger claw, why not come and join in with me, and we'll see how we go, and maybe, just maybe, have a little bit of fun along the way. That was day 1, basically, day 2, of attempting the 6-finger claw. And yeah, it's been a rough ride so far. We won 1 chicken dinner today, Ouija and I, but we decided to be really aggressive and play Ace 4 or whatever it is. Yeah, we got waxed really hard on Asia TPP. It was not fun. So now we're playing duos only, which we're in Diamond or something. It was way too difficult. And you can see how much I'm loving this lean and peak. But for all that this works, it's not 6-finger. I'm not using 6 fingers here. This is a good 5-finger layer, and I don't want that. I want to have the ability to improve my movement. And what I'm improving here is just my peaking is better, but my jumping, landing, ducking while I fight, all that kind of thing, it's not happening. So we're going to work on that. That's what we want to do next, is include our CQC game to have the duck, the lean, the drop shot, all that kind of stuff, but all at the same time and not having to think through it. And so I've changed it so that I think we will be able to do that more effectively. I hope you guys like this series, and I hope you like where it ends up. It's going to be a hard road. There's definitely no way around it. It was a real tough day today. It was a big come back to earth for Ouija and I after so much of our gameplay being based around fluidity and tactics and movement and aggression, to have to slow down everything. And we were laughing our asses off at one point where we just like, I can't find where my heal is. I can't find where my heal is. And people are killing us. And it was just like real tough. Hope you enjoy it, guys. Look after yourselves. And as always, stay safe on the battlefield. I'll leave you with this one if you want to just watch on.
No mercy! Enemy down! Reloading!
The blue team will soon take over a base!
Cover me!
Blue team has taken
victory!
a base successfully!